Hello, hello, and welcome to Saturday Soundbites. I'm your host, Veronica and I'm thrilled to be with you today to talk about all things marketing and how to show up authentically. So, on Saturday Soundbites, we talk about visibility strategy. And that could be public relations, advertising, marketing, branding, networking, all the components that really make up a strong visibility strategy. And I bring you guests who have tons of expertise in the area, who are willing to come on, share their secrets and their tips, and help you show up strong and boldly. So, with that, I'm going to remind you to hit subscribe if you're listening on your favorite podcast platform. We don't want you to miss any episodes of Saturday Soundbites. And if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, drop us some comments, and my guest and I will certainly come back and answer any questions you might have. So we're going to go ahead and get today's episode kicked off. I have the amazing Dr. Liz DuBois joining us. Hello, how are you?
Hi. Oh my gosh, I'm good. I'm as good as back-to-back weeks on vacation can be.
I'll tell you what, that is living the life. I'm so excited, Dr. Liz, about having you on the show. Tell us a little bit about your background before we really get into the meat of it, because I think it's important for people to understand the context of where you came from as a PhD academic professional to where you are right now, coaching successful people with your consulting business.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first off, thanks for having me. I'm so excited. Okay. I think in the context of our conversation today, I'll kind of filter the background story through that lens. I have always been interested in entrepreneurship. I've always found businesses really fascinating. I come from a proud lineage of entrepreneurs in my family, and grew up with the idea that that was like a viable job. I remember my aunt and uncle, I was probably a teenager. They sold a company for quite a bit of money when I was somewhere in my teens. And my cousins, two of my cousins that were their children, got to each get $1,000 to do with it what they wish. At least this was what I was told by my mom. And this idea as a kid of like, oh my gosh, you can make that kind of money if you own your business was very appealing. And so I was always interested in this idea of kind of coloring outside the lines. And I invented my first quote unquote job when I was in kindergarten. I had a business. I had rocks that I painted and I sold them for free, no monies, because I was like, they're no monies. Would you like them? And someone was like, oh, you mean they're free? And I was like a little skeptical that was a real word. I was like, I don't know about all this newfangled word business. So I would always like, they're free, no monies, just to like clarify. And so, playing with my dad's old leftover office equipment was like my favorite game when I was a little kid. So I had a weird upbringing in terms of like what I want to be when I grow up. But the one thing that I was really clear on was I wanted to work for the Walt Disney World Company. I was 8 years old on the ferry leaving the Magic Kingdom with my mom, and I turned to her and I said, I'm going to work here when I grow up. And when I was 18, I did. I went and I worked as a lifeguard in the Disney College program. And then from there went on to the marketing side of things to market the Disney College program. Learned so much about creating experiences through marketing, through words, the way in which you could draw someone into a world quite literally by positioning things in a particular way, right? If you go through Walt Disney World, the rides, in my humble opinion, are far less exciting than a lot of the rides at like some of the bigger amusement parks. You don't find thrill coasters, and
Sure.
you don't, but they consistently are, they're the gold standard, right? Like other people, people are not like, we're going to save for a lifetime to take our family to Six Flags, right? Like
Right.
they don't. And so this idea that you could create experiences for people that transport them to somewhere else was very captivating to me from a really young age. And when I graduated college, I had a degree in journalism. Facebook was invented my sophomore year of college. And I remember our journalism teachers went to a very good school for communications at American University. I think it was the 8th best program in the country. So, it wasn't Columbia, but it wasn't bad.
Right, right.
And our professors were kind of, when Facebook came out, I really just like the general zeitgeist was like, well, fuck kids, figure it out.
Yeah.
Like nobody knew what was going to happen. And I applied to, I think, 200 different jobs, and was waiting tables. And one of the people that I waited on, they had like a general manager business card for a local radio station. And I was like, I'm not leaving this table until I've networked the shit out of this. And so I sold that apple pie, that dessert tray with the best of them. And at the end, the GM handed me her business card and she said, I'm the sales director, come in and speak with me. And she hired me the next day.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah. So I got into actual advertising and communications through that. My first kind of like big girl job out of college beyond waiting tables was going and selling radio ads for Clear Channel. And I went through, I don't even know if they would make these kind of investments now, but 20 years ago, they really spent a lot of money training you on how to do marketing,
Mhm.
because you were responsible for selling the ads, and they did a lot of training around sales, lots of
Yeah.
training around sales. And then they did a tremendous amount of training around creative because you were in charge of the ad copy as well.
Gotcha.
And so it was just this like tremendous like crash course in how to be very, very good as a copywriter. And I'd already had the journalism training. And
Right.
I was just like, okay, I'm kind of pretty creative by nature. And now I've got this advanced training to do this. And I'm being mentored to go do sales. And there's a tremendous amount of incentive because I'm 22 years old on a straight commission salary.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So I figured it the fuck out. And then about 5 years later, and I had a mini, I don't know, crisis breakdown, but I had a reliving around PTSD from the sexual assault I experienced when I was 15. And I went back to my fancy office on K Street. At that point, I'd gone into advertising with publishing, was sitting down looking at this beautiful ad spread for some, I think like Shops of Georgetown or something, high end brand stuff. And I was just like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, this isn't changing the world.
Mhm.
This isn't
Mhm.
doing shit. And my then boyfriend at the time, now ex-husband, the father of my son, is just a great guy, and in general kind of supportive in a lot of ways. And I came home and it's like, I don't know what I'm doing. He was like, you got to hunt with a bigger gun. You got to go to law school or get a PhD. Like, you've got the potential to be in Congress. Like, you've got that kind of talent, but nobody's going to take you seriously with just an undergrad. And
Mhm.
with his encouragement, I went and got a PhD and kind of took it from there.
Mhm. That's a great story. I love the, how the thread of showing up for people, showing up for yourself, and then showing up for the brand was woven through that entire origin story, because that's really what makes a great marketer. And you talked about keywords like positioning and all those kinds of things that entrepreneurs who don't have a journalism background or don't have that extensive sales training have to really struggle with, because they might intuitively know it, but they don't technically know it.
Yeah.
So, I love that you walked us through that path, because I think it really lays the groundwork for how it is you probably work with folks. And my real question for you is, how does someone without that kind of training, without a PhD, without that really intense Disney background, which I know so many of our viewers are going to value, how does someone tap into all of that to show up authentically in their marketing? Because not everyone has your background.
Yeah, I mean, I think my background's pretty weird, so I would say most people don't. Yeah, so just a like quick moment of clarification. My PhD is not in marketing and advertising.
Right.
My training up to that point was, my PhD is in conflict analysis and resolution, the focus on family conflict, domestic violence, and sexual trauma. So when I had that moment, K Street kind of like, I'm not changing the world. Where I really realized was I wanted to go work with women nonprofit organizations that were working on public policy related to domestic violence, divorce, and sexual violence.
Mhm.
And so I went, to use my son's father's word, I went and got a bigger gun, so that I could work on those policy issues. And I
Mhm.
then went to found a nonprofit and run it on those issues, and then got recruited and ran a nonprofit related to family development and conflict around race and gender equity. And so the PhD was really around the substance of what I
Right.
kind of help people on under the surface. And then on the kind of surface level, when I'm working with a company owner, or I'm thinking of a particular client of mine. He runs a sales team for a very, very, very large organization. Hundreds of millions of dollars. And so I'm not teaching him about marketing. I'm teaching him on kind of the self-worth and grounding aspects of things, the clearing up the kind of interpersonal conflict residue
Mhm.
of
Mhm.
different things that leave a real imprint on what we believe we are capable of in the realm of sales and marketing.
Yeah. No, that's so true. No one really thinks about that. Well, I don't know if no one thinks about it. I think we don't talk about it enough because when you are the brand or you're charged with it, with a big title, if you've got that residue or
Mm-hmm.
some of those things blocking you, you can't show up fully because maybe you're not even conscious of where that is for you in your role. So I almost, as you're describing it, I kind of feel like it's a fog that people
Mm-hmm.
have to probably work through before they can have that clarity to then do all those tactical skills that you learn, right? And
Yeah, and one of the ways, if we can kind of, I'll like nudge us into the direction of
mhm,
speaking directly on authentic marketing. The way that this can show up is that people start to construct really complicated brands that take them away from just being like, I'm the brand, right? They'll like create a lot of different company names, and this one controls this, and this one controls this, and this one controls this, and all of that is fine, right? Elon Musk is not Tesla, and Elon Musk is not SpaceX, and he's not each of these brands. He's Elon Musk, but that's a brand unto itself,
right,
right?
right.
And so when we right, Richard Branson's another great example of this, right? He is a bigger personality, right, in a lot of ways than Elon Musk. When someone is comfortable with owning their genius and very relaxed about it, of just like, yeah, I mean, this is like, I'm a super fucking geek about this, and this is my jam, right? You can have really cool companies that take tremendous risks, right? I'm thinking again of Elon Musk, that changed the world, right?
Mhm,
He
mhm,
sent the power of the internet into a war zone, right? That is disruptive, engagement in the world.
mhm,
And when I think about the kind of confidence and willingness to fail publicly that's behind that,
mhm, mhm.
that is powerful stuff. And until you've done the work of saying, deep in the recesses of your heart, I have my own back. And so even if I fall on my face publicly, I'm like fucking fine with that, right? And
Yeah, yeah,
that's difficult to do. And if we don't do it, we end up playing very small. And
yeah.
we run companies that are, we make a difference in the world, and we change our clients' lives, and we're, committed to quality, and we go above and beyond. And that's fine, right? But for me, like, I am much more interested in like being the kind of entrepreneur that is in a position innovatively and clout wise and influence wise and money wise, that I can like send the internet into a war zone. Like,
Right.
I don't want to go above and beyond. I want to fuck shit up.
Mhm. Yeah. No, that really just kind of as you're thinking about who you are for your business. I worked with a business coach one time and we spent a lot of time working on the vision and
Mm-hmm.
who I wanted to be, not only for my clients but also for the world. And it was the first time I'd actually stretched that thought process of
Mm-hmm.
the what the work that we're doing right now, how is it impacting the world?
Yeah.
And I think that oftentimes as business owners, we're taught that we need to just keep it at this level because this is what's manageable. And then when you start engaging and having a conversation with someone like you, if you have an opportunity to talk to Dr. Liz, let me tell you, she's gonna stretch you a little bit. But that's probably where the magic is. And I would love for you to talk a little bit about how people get to that point, because we may have a desire to push it to the limit, but there's probably all that inner work that you talked about that's going to have to happen before we can get there, right? Like, what does that look like for someone who's wanting to do it but isn't quite sure how to do it?
Yeah. So I think I'll speak to my own experience and the experience of many of my clients. And I will say a lot of my clients mirror some of my traits as far as kind of where they are on their journey and where I was, right? There's a little bit of mama duck, baby duck,
Mm-hmm.
even though the skill sets in the industry are quite different, right? I work with lawyers, I work with authors, I work with sales directors, I work with financial analysts, kind of all over the place. The common denominator is they are high performers, they are hungry for more, and they feel not stuck. I hate it. There's so much language in the marketing industry, in marketing around coaching of like, do you feel stuck? We're going to,
Yeah.
catalyze your breakthrough and we're going to push through to the next level, blah, right? Like for me and my clients, it's much more around I'm already at the precipice of being in the upper echelon of my industry. I'm
Mm-hmm.
already recognized as an expert. I'm already the person that people come to. But deep down inside, I'm wondering if I really deserve it, right? There's that
Mm-hmm.
imposter syndrome. And
Mm-hmm.
then there's this kind of yearning for more, right?
Mm-hmm.
They'll say, I'm already doing all of these things, and people look at me and they're like, God, he's the man, she's the man, right? She's the girl, whatever, right? You get what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah, yeah.
That person's the shit. And
Yeah.
deep down inside, they're going, but I know I can go so much further,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so when we think about kind of the difference of like what tips someone over the edge, you have to find that mentor, that coach, and if this sounds like a sales pitch, that's fucking fine, right? Like for me, I had to find someone that recognized the brilliance in me, right? Game recognizes game,
Yeah.
and said, I know how to take you further, right? I was not looking for a spiritual healer that would coach me into my next level life. I was looking for an Olympic, like I wanted Michael Phelps coach,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like I knew I had the capacity to go so much further, so much faster. And I had a lot of clarity on what my kind of limiting beliefs were. I had a really significant limiting belief around single moms deserve to struggle. I had a
Mm-hmm.
lot of shame about
Mm-hmm.
the fact that my marriage had ended. I had a lot of kind of emotional boogaboos about how hard my mom had worked when I was growing up, and the fact that, as a doctor with pretty significant work experience in the upper echelons of a couple industries, like I didn't have to work hard, but
Mm-hmm.
I was engineering my life in such a way that I was struggling at every moment
Mm-hmm.
because I felt like if I didn't, I was dishonoring
Yeah.
all of the work, right, that my mom had done. And so I knew that I had those kind of big things,
Mm-hmm.
and most of my clients have a clear idea of their big things, but they don't know what to do about it, right? Like I
Mm-hmm.
knew I was dragging around a bag of trash,
Yeah.
but I didn't know how to put it down.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for your question, how does someone get to that point, right? I think if you're going to work with a high performance coach, right, like me versus a therapist that's going to help you kind of unpack the bag, or a healer that's going to help you release it onto the
Mm-hmm.
universe, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you are looking to tip the scales in the direction of moving forward faster towards a accelerated life, not in the speed sense, right? I'm on second
Right.
week of
Right.
vacation right now, right? But in the sense of like, I went from having 4 jobs to making pretty close to $250,000 since the start of my company in the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's what you're looking for, you've got to get yourself to a place where you're clear that you are settling for a bunch of bullshit right now
Mm-hmm.
and that you're ready to let it go.
Yeah. Yeah. And that probably, that high performer probably, like you said, is already aware of what's there, because that's probably innately part of their natural skill set anyway. So they see it, they maybe can't
Uh-huh.
even put a name to it, but they're not quite sure what to do with it. And I've in the PR space, I come across folks who are just like that. They're super successful. They've already maybe accomplished things and are accredited and award winning, but you can
Mhm.
just feel that there's just something not quite there, and they're
Yep.
just, it's right there. And so I love following you on social media, because I so often see that you address that, because
Mhm.
not everyone in your space does. And so I think it's really important for people to acknowledge.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's really important. So tell me, how do you find balance in doing all of this? And I ask because
Mhm.
you are accredited, you are working with high performing people. My sense is that there's, you know, a structure to how it is you work with them. How do you find that balance? You are on your second week of vacation.
Yeah.
You do have your own stuff you're working on. You share that with your community. How do you find ways to just make it all work so that you're in flow? Because I'll be honest with you, I, when you came on camera, I was so excited to see you just so alive and just so looking just so relaxed and healthy and strong. I just was like, how are you? How did you get there?
Okay. Okay. I think there's a couple of big components. The first is I have amazing co-parents, literally the best. And I don't know if balance, but we share the
Mhm.
responsibilities of co-parenting.
Mhm.
And they play the heavy role during the school year. My son has dyslexia, and they moved into a school district, or moved into
Mhm.
how, anyway, they facilitated being in a great school where he would have the support that he needed.
Mm.
And I did a lot of soul searching and was really clear, after giving it a good shot for about 4 months. I was really clear that I was not even a little bit happy living in
Mhm.
that area, and so I moved back to where I am quite happy,
Mhm.
which is a small island in the Chesapeake Bay, but it's about an hour from where he lives, and so 14 days out of 30 during the school year I drive. I drive up to him, with right now with gas prices is it's a hefty
Yeah.
price tag, but time with your kid is priceless, so fuck it.
Mhm.
Um, so during the school year, they have a lot of the heavy, because I'm there Tuesdays and Thursdays afternoon up until bedtime to do homework and blah 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 stuff. But 3 nights of the week they're with him,
Mhm.
and then during the summers he's with me.
Mhm.
So with everything related to school stuff, they are playing a significant role. His dad is an incredible person with logistics, so he's kind of the heavy with all of the
Yeah.
forms and everything. So the first answer is I balance, which I'm hesitant to use that word.
Sure.
I have the ability to create space in my life for my professional life and my personal life and my mental health slash recovery life. I'm an
Mhm.
addict in recovery. I can do a lot of that, and parent my child, because I'm one of three parents in the mix.
Yeah.
And then I think the second thing is I had some pretty significant struggles with mental health, and learned that, in a very concrete way, that I need to create time and space to be with a therapist once a week. I will never again not have a coach, because my coach helps me oversee my business in a way that creates a lot of space versus creates a lot of busy work that leads to ineffective results. So
Mhm.
I invest a lot of time in my well-being. I did a tremendous amount of work to find a great psychologist, which if someone has experienced mental health challenges, that is a lift.
Yep.
I was diagnosed as bipolar 1 in 2004, and it's a big part of the day to day is managing, making sure I'm healthy, making sure I'm
Mhm.
my best self, and then being really clear on where I want to give my time in terms of my professional life.
Mhm.
Um, there are ways that I could be automating my business differently and scaling. There's so many different lead gen systems and
Mhm.
blah 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 blah. Um, I use the ones that make me really happy, and so so my work feels a lot like painted rocks for free, no monies.
Oh, yeah.
Um, and then I'm pretty selective about the clients I take on. I never have more than 12 at the same time. And at the moment, I don't run a ton of group programs, so I'm not
Mhm.
teaching a lot. When I get on Zoom with a client, I am just as much, if not more, excited to see them as they are to see me, because I work with people. I genuinely love, at least once a month I'm kind of tearing up as I watch someone
Aw.
progress. And I have one of my clients came to me last May making consistent $6,000 to $7,000 a month, and I said, one day you're going to have $100,000 a month. And that day came in June this
Oh,
year.
oh,
And
I
and
love it.
so I get to have these amazing milestones, and
Yeah,
as much as I'm facilitating some of these things, they're doing the work, right? I'm just
yeah.
here as a facilitator to kind of help the growth grow. But I also get to be along for the ride, and it's really fucking fun.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great. I love that you're a stand for your clients. So, just in creating the space and giving them the tools that they need. Dr. Liz, how can people work with you? How do you want people to reach out and connect with you?
Yeah, sure. So quickest thing to do is join my community on Facebook. Which is transitioning branding right now. So
Ah,
I will announce it here. I have historically worked with a lot of women, but I have more and more and more men coming into my world, and they're just really fucking fun to work with.
mhm.
And so my new community on Facebook is called Pants Free Zoom Room. I
Nice.
will A community for unprofessional professionals. So I will send the links, and then you can also find me on Facebook just on my main page. I am Elizabeth Degi, Degi, and then DuBois, my last name, Dubois. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I'm just Liz Degi DuBois. And the quickest way to get in touch as far as wanting to work with me is either to send me an email, drlizdubois@gmail.com, keeping it old school.
Yeah.
I don't know technology, so I'll figure out how to have an email. I tried really hard and I
Yeah,
couldn't
I
figure.
get you. I mean, I get you. It's
But
awesome.
like for those of you that are listening and you're kind of like, I have to have all the things set up. I made my first $100,000 in my business when I didn't even have a website.
Yeah.
It like you
It's
don't have to do this perfectly in order to do it well.
so true. Oh, I love that. And that's definitely how we're going to end it. Dr. Liz, thank you so much for your expertise and for sharing your story. I've enjoyed having you, and I will make sure that all of your contact information is in the show notes so people can connect.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. All right, guys. That wraps up this episode of Saturday Soundbites. Thank you so much for joining. You can always find me at veronicavisofer.com. I am happy to connect. I want you to make sure you go into Dr. Liz's new community, join, and check out all of her resources. They're phenomenal. And she's just a great person to follow for inspiration, especially if you are in the beginning phases of your journey, because trust me, you're going to want that inspiration. So, with that, I'm wrapping up this episode. If you are listening on the podcast, make sure you hit subscribe. We don't want you to miss any episodes of Saturday Soundbites. And if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, drop us some comments and we will circle back and connect. And with that, I'm sending you lots of positive